right, so let's take a look. The next question. All right, I think this is a pretty good one. What are some common misunderstandings about our vacant policy?
The biggest misunderstanding I believe that I run across or I get asked about is what actually is a vacant property.
Oh, that's a good one.
And so a lot of times I'll receive a phone call where I get the question, hey, someone's running by the house every other day. Is anybody staying in it? No. Okay, well, if no one's actually residing in the home, it's vacant. So I think that is the biggest misconception that we run across on a daily basis.
Yeah. And to kind of add to that, again, what is a vacant? So another thing we talked about quite a bit earlier is that it's going to be a rental, but it's not occupied now. So that's one misconception that people think I can just write it as a rental right now. But then outside of that, what is a vacant? And again, you kind of hit on this earlier. Vacant property should have a plan of some sort. You know, it's going to be on the market. It's going to be for sale. My mother-in-law just passed away, and we don't really know what we're going to do with it, but we're, keeping an eye on it. What we don't want are the abandoned properties, the ones where nobody's taking care of it. It's just there, because that invokes a lot of problems.
So I'm glad you just said that. So that is one of the things too. So you mentioned there needs to be a plan for it. One of the biggest misunderstandings is that we are willing to write a vacant property that is going to be vacant forever. I've actually had this happen a couple times. So the first time it came up, I thought, okay, this is just strange. It's an isolated incident. Then it happened the second time, the third time, the fourth time. Now I think it's a normal thing. I received a phone call. Hey, a customer bought their neighbor's house, and they're just leaving it empty. Why? They don't want neighbors.
Oh.
Okay. So no plan? Nope. They're just going to leave it vacant. We're not insuring at that point. 'Cause really, at that point, that exposes a lot of claim issues. That expose, from the underwriting, are they going to maintain and upkeep the house? Things where if they're going to flip it and sell it, they're going to want to make sure it stays in a condition that sells it. But if their goal is just, look, I don't want someone living next to me, then we're not going to insure.
That's going to create a lot of long-term issues, potentially animals, pests.
Yeah.
Just a lot of not sudden events to the home.
Yep.
Now, as an agent, asking those questions and finding that out, that's good that they don't write it. Why is it important that they find that out? Obviously for us and for them, but what could be some repercussions? So what you were saying is it wouldn't be covered? Or?
I wouldn't say it wouldn't be covered, but there's going to be some, when you're not properly maintaining a home, a lot of bad things happen to the home, and when non-sudden events happen to the home, like let's just say
Termites,
or let's say there's a small drip in this roof.
Yeah.
Small drip in the roof, and it just leaks and leaks and leaks. Then eventually the living room ceiling collapses. Well, that's something, if it was vacant or a rental property, that would be caught really early on as soon as you see a water stain on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Well, if it's abandoned, nobody's in there for 6 months, well, guess what? You're having water issues. A long-term leakage like that, or leakage through a roof, is not covered. It makes sense why we would stay away from those properties.
So one other repercussion, we have a lot of agents that are on profit sharing through us and contingencies, and part of those payments are based on your loss ratio. And if all of a sudden you have a $120,000 house, $80,000 house, I mean, if you think about it, that will really raise that loss ratio up really quickly, and so that could be the difference between receiving that extra payment at the end of the year and not receiving that extra payment of the year.